Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. In this video, I'm going to share with you Attorney John Deaton's response to the news that broke yesterday that the SEC is going to appeal the ruling in the Ripple lawsuit came down from Judge Torres. And I find this particularly interesting because John Deaton was at the heart of all that was occurring with this case, especially as it pertains to the XRP community. Pushing himself into this, getting approval from Judge Torres to participate in this case, representing ultimately over 75,000 XRP holders from all over the place. And he's also incredibly busy right now. I don't know if you heard, but I know you did hear. He is also running for Senate right now, and he still took some time to share some thoughts about exactly what happened here. So I thought what I'd do is run through his statement, share some thoughts along the way, and also cite some of the, pull up some of the specific instances that he references, because some of it I'm not sure if it's entirely widely known. Like, for instance, the fact that Bitcoin was found to be part of an illegal securities transaction back in the day. Did you guys even know that? I mean, I've talked about it on my channel. I don't know if it's particularly widespread. I didn't know until Deaton started talking about that within the last couple of years whenever he first brought it up, and I was like, really? And you're telling me that didn't make Bitcoin itself a security? Well, how about that? But before going further, I do want to be clear. I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. All right, so here is the post from Attorney Deaton. He says, normally, a candidate for U.S. Senate would probably not comment on the SEC's decision to appeal a district court ruling. However, I'm not your typical candidate, and I spent hundreds of pro bono hours and over $75,000 of my own money fighting gross overreach and misconduct at the SEC in this particular case, and on behalf of 75,000 token holders. Okay, I will pause to say I knew obviously this had to come not just at an expense of his time, but also at a monetary expense with everything that he's doing, and he's got a team behind him with his own law firm. If he's ever cited that figure before, then maybe I'm just not recalling it, or maybe I just straight up missed it. But I just saw that and I was like, oh my freaking God. $75,000 to like kind of like, if you think it, you could think about it like 75 grand to pay for like the privilege of fighting the SEC, if you want to call it that, and spending hundreds of your own dollars, own hours. That costs 75 grand. You gotta appreciate John Deaton. And like the amount of like fire in the belly, as they say, that you must have to do something like that, because it can't be an emotion that's a flash in the pan. If you have to have that persistent feeling throughout to go to the lengths that he did. And I just think it's incredible that he has pulled this off. And he absolutely materially changed the outcome of this lawsuit, because there were sworn affidavits from XRP holders, thanks to him, in the lawsuit that were referenced by Judge Torres. So it is pretty damn amazing. But when I saw that figure upon reading this, I was like, whoa, 75 grand for that? And I believe it. I'm just saying, it kind of hits, especially knowing like what he did and how consequential it was, and now knowing the outcome since the case is over. I know there's an appeal that's separate, but it's also not going to matter for XRP holders ultimately. Anyway, then he continues. He says, all I asked the SEC to do was agree that XRP itself was not a security. It wasn't a very big ask, considering Judge Castell in Telegram had specifically ruled that the Gram token, like Bitcoin, was nothing more than alphanumeric code and not the security. Okay, I have to pause to say something about that too. So we now know in the end that the SEC, they argued, look, of course, we're not even going to appeal the decision on XRP not being a security. We know that it's just computer code with no inherent value, right? That's what they argued. That's I'm paraphrasing, but that's pretty much it. But throughout the case, what did they say? So if you asked them straight up, are you saying XRP is a security? They'd say no. But then they'd make every argument under the sun that it is, which is why it was just so disingenuous, speaking out of both sides of their mouth. And so to ultimately end up in the position of them saying, even after the decision came down, no, we're not saying that XRP is a security. For all of that, if you would have just straight up said that at the beginning of the case, then you wouldn't have had John Deaton coming at you with 75,000 XRP holders, which materially changed the outcome. Now, of course, had that been the case, and here's why they wouldn't do it, they couldn't have been disingenuous and then argued the same way that they did. They couldn't have. So they just decided to do what was intellectually dishonest and try to burn everything on down. That's pretty much it. Kind of absurd with the benefit of hindsight, right? Didn't work out for him so well. Anyway, Deaton continues. In addition to that ruling, 75 years of case law clearly established that anything could be packaged, marketed, offered, and or sold as a security, but the underlying asset or thing itself was never considered the security. Condos, Bitcoin, chinchillas, and orange groves were all previously packaged, marketed, offered, and or sold as securities. Doing so didn't turn Bitcoin itself or condos into securities. Hell, even beavers were offered as investment contracts, yet beavers remain beavers and not transformed into unregistered securities. And so that's certainly very obviously true. It's not like XRP would suddenly become a security, even if somebody illegally packaged it and sold it as a security. Same for Bitcoin. And so, again, like I said at the outset of the video, I don't think a lot of people know this. I've mentioned it at least a couple times on my channel here, but I thought I'd share with you some of the specifics. Bitcoin was absolutely packaged and sold as a security. So look at this headline. This is from the official SEC website, July 23rd, 2013. So this is early on in the world of crypto. SEC charges Texas man with running Bitcoin-denominated Ponzi scheme. And I will tell you right now, even before reading just a little bit of this, that ultimately, again, Bitcoin absolutely was found to have been packaged as an illegal security. That did not make Bitcoin a security. And that would always be true with XRP or chinchillas or condos or beavers or anything else. Reads as follows. The Securities and Exchange Commission today charged a Texas man and his company with defrauding investors in a Ponzi scheme involving Bitcoin, a virtual currency traded on online exchanges for conventional currencies like the US dollar, or used to purchase goods or services online. The SEC alleges that Trendon T. Shavers, who is the founder and operator of Bitcoin Savings and Trust, or BTCST for short, offered and sold Bitcoin-denominated investments through the internet using the monikers Pirate and Pirate at 40. Shavers raised at least 700,000 Bitcoin in BTCST investments, which amounted to more than $4.5 million based on the average price of Bitcoin in 2011 and 2012, when the investments were offered and sold. Today, the value of 700,000 Bitcoin exceeds $60 million. Now, of course, that was back in 2013. It's worth a little bit more today. But he had 700,000 Bitcoin. Oh my God. That's gigantic. Think about it. With a max supply ever of 21 million, and he had 700,000 Bitcoin. That's insane. So yes, it was a Ponzi scheme, but these were also illegal securities transactions. So check this out. The SEC alleges that Shavers promised investors up to 7% weekly interest based on BTCST's Bitcoin market arbitrage activity, which supposedly included selling to individuals who wished to buy Bitcoin off the radar in quick fashion or large quantities. In reality, BTCST was a sham and a Ponzi scheme in which Shavers used Bitcoin from new investors to make purported interest payments and cover investor withdrawals on outstanding BTCST investments. Well, how about that? But again, after this, Bitcoin wasn't like delisted from exchanges because of this crap. No. That's why I will tell you this. The SEC v. Ripple case was a very clear attack on all things crypto. Now, back in 2013, the SEC, it was early enough on in crypto that they didn't want to take a stance on anything, so that meant that they were holding back. Maybe they were even considering attacking. They were having conversations behind closed doors, possibly. Well, it's not like it wouldn't have come up at all. Well, here. But it's not that they would have thought about it on some sort of more in-depth level, but they were not ready to take an action. What if it's just a flash in the pan and it goes away? It's only been out a few years. What if this whole crypto thing fails? Do they really need to take action on it? Maybe it was something like that. But then, by the time you get to 2020... the SEC had made it pretty obvious that they were going into pit bull mode. They're an attack dog at this point. So they took a much more heavy-handed approach with Ripple, which was not fraudulent. They didn't even claim that there was fraud. Certainly not a Ponzi scheme. And that was way more aggressive and completely unreasonable than the approach here, which just kind of illustrates some of the absurdity, frankly. That's pretty much it. Anyway, Attorney Deaton then continues this. So that's the reference. Now you know. Most people in crypto don't know that Bitcoin was packaged as a security illegally. It was back in 2013. It was the SEC v. Shavers case. Anyway, Attorney Deaton continues, the arguments made by the SEC in Ripple involving XRP were akin to arguing that the oranges produced by the orange groves in Howie were unregistered securities, even if a consumer with no knowledge of the Howie company purchased oranges from a grocery store 1,000 miles away. The SEC made the absurd argument that the oranges embodied the security. Of course, the SEC couldn't cite a single case in history supporting its ridiculous assertion. A lifelong Democrat judge appointed by Barack Obama agreed with my amicus brief and others and ruled XRP itself is not a security, just as I predicted she would on live television on Liz Clayman's show and Charles Gasparino. And so I don't know if a lot of people are aware of that, but that is true. Judge Torres was appointed by Barack Obama. So any claims of, politically this or that, because I remember even leading up to the decision, the Torres decision, there were people speculating that since the few that actually knew that she was appointed by Barack Obama, oh, this is going to get torn down because, from the top to the bottom, with the Biden administration being as anti-crypto as they are, this is not going to be good for us. Now, I would agree, obviously, the administration is disastrous for crypto. No qualms with such statements there. But I also noted that when it comes to the legal system, it actually does work. Not perfectly. There are times when injustice is done, but most of the time in this country, justice actually is done, or something approximating that, or else we wouldn't even have a damn society here. We'd be, I don't know what we'd be. We wouldn't be what we are now, though. So you have to have the rule of law to a certain degree, and we do. Like, mostly it is done here. And I wasn't anticipating that there would be some sort of injustice done here specifically on this case by this particular judge. But anyway, Deaton continues. He says, the judge overseeing discovery in the case ruled SEC lawyers lacked faithful allegiance to the law and essentially called them hypocrites. And actually, if I may, I'd like to... hold on one second. Sorry, so I just got distracted. Somebody's calling me. If I could just highlight, because this is my favorite quote from the entire SEC v. Ripple case. Here's the headline: Hypocrisy. Judge denies SEC motion to keep Hinman docs secret in Ripple case. I'm sure you guys remember this. This is July 13th of 2022, exactly 1 year before we got the news on XRP Victory Day being declared not a security. But here's the actual quote from Judge Sarah Knepper. The hypocrisy in arguing to the court on the one hand that the speech is not relevant to the market's understanding of how or whether the SEC will regulate cryptocurrency, and on the other hand, that Hinman sought and obtained legal advice from SEC counsel in drafting his speech, suggests that the SEC is adopting its litigation positions to further its desired goal and not out of a faithful allegiance to the law. I love that. That is my favorite quote in the entire case, because it just bitch smacks him. So she's saying it's hypocritical. Their argument, it's hypocrisy. And she said that it's not being made out of faithful allegiance to the law. That thing just like straight up slaps, man. I should have that. I kind of want to like print that and like hang it on the wall at home somewhere. That would be fantastic. Anyway, Attorney Deaton continues. He says, I call them downright unethical. Let's not forget, SEC lawyers were sanctioned by a federal judge in the debt box case. Clearly, I'm not the only one who thinks so. Yeah, so I won't belabor this point. I covered it in depth at the time. This was earlier this year. Here's the headline, though, from May. Judge dismisses debt box case, orders SEC to pay $1.8 million in fees. So the judge slapped him down right now and said, quote, that the SEC had, quote, engaged in bad faith conduct, end quote. Where have we seen quotes like that before? The Ripple lawsuit. And then ultimately, when we got this story in June of this year, SEC to shutter office behind failed debt box crypto lawsuit. So it turns out that there were significant signs of attrition among staff from this office having to do with the debt box, the debacle. Anyway, and then he wraps up by saying the following. This is Deaton again. Almost 4 years after suing Ripple and making the above ridiculous claims, SEC lawyers apologized, in a different case, for suggesting tokens themselves were securities. Because the SEC is pursuing an anti-crypto agenda, it will now waste more taxpayer money. Gary Gensler is a disgrace. Golf clap for Attorney Deaton, everybody. Spot on, absolutely. And just to reference this real quickly, in case you've forgotten or maybe missed this story, this is from September 13th of this year, from Cointelegraph. SEC regrets any confusion from dubbing tokens as securities. We're sorry. Remember this whole thing? Take a look at this. According to a footnote in September 12th court filing, the United States Securities and Exchange Commission has retracted its long-standing characterization of cryptocurrencies as securities and intends to use more careful language in the future. The retraction arose from the SEC's ongoing lawsuit against crypto exchange Binance for allegedly offering and selling unregistered securities. In a 2023 complaint, the SEC identified 10 crypto assets on the Binance platform as securities, including the native tokens Solana, Cardano, and Polygon. The SEC regrets any confusion caused by its characterization of these tokens as crypto asset securities, and, quote, no longer uses the shorthand term, end quote, according to the September 12th file. Now, of course, they literally used it separately that same day as I highlighted in the moment, which is hilarious and awful. But yeah, just made up the term crypto asset securities, doesn't even actually mean anything. But it sure sounds bad and scary, right? And so then we regret the confusion. Oh, okay. So you're not going to do it. Oh, okay. Thank you for absolutely nothing, you little pricks. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.